going on at UNK during a pretty interesting time. We've got some great questions for tonight for Chancellor to take a swing at and inform you about what's going on. And it's worth noting that we will post the recording of this later. And one of the things we always tell the alumni that really, really is important to the institution is you can be an advocate for it. And so if you think it's interesting, and I'm pretty sure you will, share that with your friends and ask them to take a look at it. And that helps the institution a great deal. But anyway, we're just so glad you joined us. And this is part of what we do now. I suspect we'll continue to do things like virtual events, even in a time when we can do the much preferred face-to-face engagement with you all. So with that, welcome, and I'll get out of the way.
Okay. We had quite a few questions submitted ahead of time, so we'll make sure to get to as many of those as we can. But if you do have a question, please feel free to share that question via the chat function. And make sure, I've noticed a couple people are already telling us where they're from. We've got Topeka and Seward. We are thrilled to have you guys with us. Make sure you post in there where you're joining us from. Once we get started, I will mute everybody except for Chancellor. But please feel free to unmute to ask a question or ask a follow-up. So, and like Lucas said, we are recording this, just so you know. And I am quite aware that there is something about a presidential debate here in a little bit. So we will keep this to probably about 30 or 40 minutes. So I know a few of you will want to be watching that here in a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. And Chancellor Kristensen, let me get everybody muted here, and then
okay.
I'll
Great.
let you unmute. All right, the floor is yours.
This is really cool. I like this a lot. And thank you all for tuning in. I don't know if I need the pressure, Trish, of being entertaining, but maybe the presidential debate's not a bad, no matter how bad I might be, maybe it'll be better than that. But, you know, the institution itself, if you would have said to me in July, what do you think you're going to be doing in the first week of October? And my guess would have been that we would have had a series of difficult problems. We would have been in the middle of doing some additional budget reductions. And quite frankly, I would not have had a really rosy outlook. I would have pointed to problems with fraternity and sorority housing. I would have looked at trying to get the regional engagement center going when I didn't really have any idea about funds and how we're going to put that together. And thanks, Bill. So it was really, I think, uncertainty, and we decided to, in May, shortly after we canceled commencement, that our goal was to open campus. We were not going to sit back and say, you know, we're just going to throw in the towel and all go virtual and digital. We decided that it was really important for us to do what we think we do best, and that's face-to-face education, particularly for the undergraduates. We had all sorts of prognostications that we were going to be down 9–10% in enrollment. That's kind of what the numbers looked like. If you add that on to the state being down in revenue, that wasn't a very rosy picture. You saw us in July do budget reductions, and those aren't very pleasant to do. We didn't have a chance to really sit down and do a normal process. We had to save money fairly quickly. We did that, and I think ever since the 1st of July, I am thrilled with our vice chancellors and people and the directors who really, I think, went above and beyond the call to make this semester happen. And, you know, we were toying with the idea of, what do we tell people? Do we tell them that we're going online, or do we tell them we're in person? We kept the attitude that we're going to go on person as long as we can until we just couldn't do it anymore. Normally we teach about 77% of our classes are face-to-face. This semester it's 68%. So for the people who said, oh my gosh, they just threw in the towel and they're all online, that is not true. I think we've really got some good online programs, and we'll talk about U.S. News and World Report rankings of those sorts of things. But for the most part, people took their fears, and believe me, they're real out there when you look at other campuses or other communities. This morning we had the latest numbers. We had 17 new cases this week. We cleared from 13 last week, so we've crept up. Our infection rate's really low. I think Charlie Bisek walks campus almost every day. I duck in and out of buildings, and we see uniform compliance with mask requirements. Faculty, staff, and the students deserve a lot of credit. And that's the reason our spread's been pretty low. So I think we're in pretty good shape. There's so many other things we can talk about, Trish. How about if we just get into the questions, and I'll weave in U.S. News and World Report. I'll try to weave in buildings. I'll try to weave in some athletics. Whatever you have, let's try to tackle.
Absolutely. First question, I've heard people say UNK will never build south of Highway 30. There are 2 buildings up and dirt's moving. What's happening there? And I'll tack on, what else is new at UNK?
Okay, that's fair. That was the comment back in about 2005 or 6 by the Kearney City Council. We went in and objected to them granting a variance to allow for the construction of a cell tower. And the response I got back is, oh, we've heard that forever. You're going to build south of Highway 30. Nothing's ever going to happen. If you would look there today, one of our proudest buildings, I believe, is the Planbeck Early Childhood Center. It's a gym. We now have Village Flats, or a residence hall that is full, has a waiting list to get in. You see a tennis center on the south side of that on Railroad Street that is going to start moving fairly soon. We are moving dirt as we speak for some upscale apartments that are going to be a complement to Village Flats. On the drawing board, I just got done with the, in fact, that's where I was before I got on the interstate to get to Lincoln tonight, village board meeting. Talking about the Regional Engagement Center. That is a reality. That's going to happen. But there's a lot of other things. We've got a piece of artwork thanks to a private gift. It's going to be about a 50 or 60 foot lighted piece of steel artwork that I think is going to be a showstopper. You're going to be able to see it from the interstate. That's going to be in the town square of University Village. And you'll see us moving the infrastructure. So the street that comes off of Highway 30 that snakes through, we're going to take that all the way down to Railroad and have the infrastructure in that. Very exciting. We've also had progress reports from the Diocese of Lincoln, the Catholic Diocese of Lincoln. They're interested in building a Newman Center on that site. I think they've already begun their fundraising for that. That'll have a housing component as well. I think that'll really add, that'll add to the village, but it certainly will help us with recruiting, as there's a number of those parochial schools in the Grand Island District or diocese that they would like to bring in. So lots of things going on there. And I think in terms of what's new, next week we're going to have the ribbon cutting for Discovery Hall. What people would know as the STEM building. I just can't stand to call it STEM anymore. So we named it Discovery Hall, which is a placeholder, quite frankly, until I think we find a donor, which I do think will come. But that it has some 72 miles of cable in it, of wired data, and it is the most technology-rich building quite frankly, outside of Lincoln and Omaha in the state. And you put that along with our new health science education complex, and you really have a great 1-2 punch. So we're, in terms of facilities, that's really super. New east entrance to campus. So, you know, when you come down 9th Street and go through the weave and maze of don't go left, but don't go right, but don't go up the middle and take a left turn onto Highway 30, but cross it. Be careful to look at the people coming 2 lanes that you can't see. And meanwhile, you're merging from a blind intersection on the other side. That's not happening anymore. And we've got a new entrance. They're just about done with the landscaping. The signage should be up here in 2 weeks with lighting. And not that we've got any pressure on Locust, but if we can get Lucas to help us get a big Loper statue, that's a great place for it. Maybe we'll find another spot on campus for another one. But honestly, there is so much momentum, Trish. We're busy every day with things really moving forward.
Okay. Next question is, are there any discussions about bringing the baseball program back?
Oh, I'd like to say yes, but I want to be candid and say not really. Difficult decision, painful decision, just as men's golf and men's tennis were. Those are probably in these budget times going to be difficult to add a men's sport back. We knew that at the time that we made the reductions. We'd like to honor baseball, but in reality, I'd have to be truthful and say at the present time, there's no discussions, and I don't see that happening, at least in the next foreseeable future.
Okay. Next question comes with a little preamble to it.
Okay.
This graduate said, when I was enrolled at UNK, it was known as Kearney State Teachers College. And while it had a great reputation for educating educators, it also had a great pre-med program. When I was a manager of an environmental services at a couple different consulting firms, I had the opportunity to review resumes of recent graduates from colleges and universities around the country. Many lacked any educational training to qualify them for much of a career. This question is, what are the top 5 degree or majors of students graduating from UNK, and how long does it take them to find a job, especially if it's in their field of choice?
Yeah, there's a very rich questions, obviously, because that really gets into the fabric. And I don't know if Peg Abels is on the call, but when I butcher up the numbers, hopefully if she's on the call, she'll correct me. But, you know, UNK has really, I think, distinguished itself in terms of health education, health sciences, and the ability to put students into the professional programs at the Med Center, and not just the College of Medicine, but a wide range of those health professions. The statistics that I try to remember and quote is that the average acceptance rate of medical college at UNMC, which is world class, is about 7%, unless you're a Kearney grad. And then we're talking 61, 62% acceptance. We probably get close to 85% of our students get accepted into the health professions across the board. That's just outstanding. And the bottom line is, if you want to go to med school, what are you doing going to any place other than Kearney? And it's just silly. But that means you've got great faculty members in chemistry and biology and physics and life sciences and so on. Great dedication. You get people like Peg Abels who have vision and the ability to execute visions, and those are good. Other top majors, clearly we were founded on the College of Education and training teachers for this state because there was tremendous need. That need has not gone away. That need's still out there today, and so that is good. I tell you, the need for teachers across the state of Nebraska is so high, and as we have witnessed, there's a number of positions that are not filled. 10, 15 years ago, that number was pretty small and they were fairly exotic things that they couldn't fill, but rural Nebraska cannot fill teachers. We need more. And I think that's got great opportunities. That's the reason the online programs are so good, because they're place bound, helping people up their credentials, helping existing teachers with better pay and better skills. That's got to be highlighted. Things like industrial distribution still continue to be very successful, and graduation and placement rates not far behind is construction management, supply chain. They've now got a brand new building. So some of our best programs were in our worst building, and now this year they moved over to our best building, and it'll be interesting to see what they do to do that. You know, the landscape's changed. Students are interested in careers that fit their lifestyles, and they want to do things that are fulfilling. And obviously the health professions, the medical profession and the allied health programs are very, very popular. And now you can stay in Kearney and get those advanced degrees. I think people are seeing the wisdom of doing that.
All right. Our next question is, I've heard about some of the new incentives for out-of-state kids to attend UNK. Can you explain what those are?
Yeah, you know, about 3 years ago, we did a pilot, and that pilot was to attract students from Colorado, and we included Kansas in there. We knew that that was going to be a little tougher go just because of the population demographics of Western and North Central Kansas. But we gave as a trial resident tuition to those Colorado and Kansas students, and that has been pretty successful. What we lacked was the ability and the funds to be able to market that in a strong position. With the new president, Ted Carter, who, by the way, likes Kearney. I think he identifies with Kearney. He was out here Friday night for 3 hours. We didn't talk any business. We sat out at Cunningham's on the lake and had a few adult beverages and talked about the world. And he and his wife, they're comfortable. They understand Kearney and they appreciate UNK. Ted wants to make sure that part of his 5-year strategy matches with ours, and that's, first of all, give greater access to students to higher education, make it more accessible, which means more affordable, and to maintain high quality when we do that. And so we volunteered rather quickly, and what we did was say, we will go to all of our non-resident students and give them resident tuition, no matter what state they're from, no matter where they're at. And we need to help us grow. The number of high school students in Nebraska has stayed pretty constant, pretty steady. It's not growing. And so we tend to fight over the same piece of pie, and we need to grow the pie a little bit more. With that, the president now has authorized several $100,000 for us over the next 3 years to market this program, which means we're going to go into Chicago and Kansas City and Denver and so on and market this. Obviously, buying TV ads in those metropolitan areas is not how you're going to attract students. So it's a social media, it's buying names. But quite frankly, if I could put a plug in, if the alumni is interested in helping its alma mater, checks are obviously always valued, right, Lucas? But we are trying to come up with a dream team of recruiters, and it includes you. So if you're in other areas, there's a real premium, and now there's a real reason to send students to Kearney. You not only have high quality, and we're number 6 in U.S. News and World Report. We're a best value. Our online programs are nationally now recognized. There's a good reason to have those students come to UNK, and I think they will find it's safe. but you also get good teaching. You're not going to be just a number, and we're not going to wait and hope to put you into a graduate program. We're going to give you our best people from day one. And that has really been the hallmark of UNK. And I think that's how we're going to attract them. It helps athletics, obviously, because if they recruit out-of-state students before, they'd have to get a scholarship to cover the full cost of non-residency. They're not going to be able to get more, or at least offer more, given the money that they have. So I think it helps us in a wide variety of ways. But at the end of the day, we've got to grow. And that's really tough. It's a very competitive market. And one of my favorite students, we have a chancellor's leadership class, and I always ask them to tell me what drew them to Kearney. Did they find that to be true, and what would you change? And she said, I'm from Omaha, and I would change, my attitude was that there were only cowboys out in Kearney. And, as an Omaha student, she goes, I didn't even see a one. And she goes, I wish I could tell more people how high of quality UNK is, and that they are dearly and sadly misinformed if they just think it's a bunch of rural kids out in the middle of nowhere. And that's coming from a pretty insightful 18-year-old. So we fight that every day. But it's just as we have some old stereotypes about, and some of you may well be to blame for this stereotype, back in the 60s and 70s, Kearney was a great place to be for maybe all the wrong reasons. But that has really passed now. I think we are in a different age where people are seeing UNK as a quality program.
Okay. And be watching, all of you watching your email, you will be getting information on the Dream Team. So please be watching for that. Could you give us an update on Greek housing on campus?
I sure will, and I'm proud to do so. Short history is that we had a need on our campus to put up Greek housing rather quickly back in the 80s to gain control of the behavior on campus and to pull those chapters onto campus. The buildings were erected quickly and as cheaply as possible, and we're now paying the price for that erection of stick buildings. And we had a crisis a little over a year ago where we had a chilled water main break and flooded a sorority. We had to move them in the middle of the semester. It was not as simple as calling the plumber and having them fix the leak. It's a major structural defect. And the problem is that every one of the other pods, it could happen tonight to any of them, and we would have to be moving them out. That is not good for our Greek system. They're a high priority for our campus. We want to make sure they are engaged, they are active, they're the leaders. And I couldn't imagine a campus without a Greek system and a thriving Greek system. And so a year ago, we had some immediate, I would say, temporary Band-Aid plans that got floated. They weren't necessarily as well thought out as we should have probably done them. I think we kind of threw the Greek leadership in a tizzy. And so it was sort of John Watts and I's desire that we're going to right the ship and put some stability in. To do this right, we need about $35 million. We don't have $35 million. We do have some additional funds, and we've also been able to go to central administration and have them lend the money to us. We now have a central bank instead of going out into the open bond market and having a master indenture. This has freed up some flexibility for us. And I think we've also got the ability to pay off some debt that we had with the prior food service. We can get that done and free up some cash and some debt service for us. So here's the initial discussion. We have need for probably a couple hundred beds that are new. I don't know exactly where we're going to build those. I would think the old Otto Olson site would be ideal, but we're going to study and look at that. We also have some smaller chapters that need some flexibility, the ability to grow and move, and we have some room in some of the existing residence halls, and we need to renovate those to allow some flexibility for those smaller chapters. They need some special things. They need a ritual chapter room. They need some storage. They need identifiable entrances. They need to be able to have a lounge and a study space. And they need a place to call home. And we want to provide that, and we're going to do that. We don't have 35 million, but I think we do have a plan, and central administration's been very supportive, and they buy in that this is the number one thing that keeps me up at night. That we could be moving as many as 6 or 7 chapters into emergency housing and destroying their semester and their whole year for them. So we've got to get this done.
Okay, thank you. We had a question submitted on the chat asking, do you still have the translation/interpretation degree program? And then the second question of that is, what does the international student program look like right now?
Well, the international student program has really hit a bump in the road. You know, a lot of our international students couldn't get home. And so most who are there are returning. We lost some, but we got 0 new international students who just couldn't get into the country and get into our program. And that's the reason we're down less than 1% this year. And that's due to primarily about 100 international students couldn't get here. And if they were here, we'd be looking at being up 1% or 2. The translation degree program, I think, is still in place, but it's not as viable. And there's still some work in there, but quite frankly, that's been a very difficult one to sustain at this point.
Just quickly, can you tell us a little bit more about the partnership with College Park in Grand Island? Quickly.
I sure can. I'll quickly. I'm sorry. Yeah, you know, 17 years ago, it was sort of the last helicopter out of Grand Island. They were shooting bullets as we drove out, I thought. We had budget cuts. We had severe budget cuts, and we had to find ways to save money. And one of them is to pull back the offerings into Kearney. We did so. We didn't lose many students by doing that. But now, some 17 years later, we were one of the original partners at College Park. Last Friday, we were able to rekindle that. Charlie Bisek has done a wonderful job. Peter Longo's done a great job. And we're back in Grand Island at College Park. We're going to be offering some degree programs, some certificate programs. We're talking to business and leaders about what do they want. They have a very strong non-traditional group of students. They also have a community college. Poor old Central Community College, they've had a tough go. I mean, they lost 500 students. They're down 10% this year. And we need to be able to rekindle and cooperate and work with him. So I think you're going to see a lot more activity from us. We've rented a couple offices over at College Park, and we'll have a strong presence there.
That's great news. I'm sure Angela is excited for that to happen as well. A shortened football and cross-country seasons have been announced for this fall. Is the MIAA pursuing a spring season for other fall programs like volleyball and soccer?
We'll find that out on Thursday afternoon. There's a meeting of the CEOs on Thursday afternoon. We seem to have a number of these. This is not an MIAA sanctioned football season. We're split right down the middle as to whether to offer a spring or fall football. And so you've seen 4 or 5 of us decide that we're going to move on our own and have a season and play some games. And if we can do that safely, and I have every reason to believe we can. it just tugs at my heart not to have volleyball this year, to be preseason #1 and have 2 Division I transfers coming in. It kills me not to have a volleyball championship, but that's a decision that the NCAA Division II made. They're not going to retreat on that because they see saving money to do that. I do think that we will see a volleyball season. I think we may see it more in the spring. I'm confident that we're at least going to try to start about a 20-game basketball season for men and women. I think that's going to happen, providing that we don't have a major outbreak on our campuses. But as you can see, all the way from pro football down to high school games, you never know when a hot spike is going to occur, and we're interested in safety, and testing is important for us. But as to the number of crowds, there's just a lot of unknowns, Trish, at this point. And I'll put it this way: we're going to have homecoming. It's going to be an inter-squad game. We won't have a parade. We will have lip sync. We're going to have a great walk from one part of campus to the stadium as sort of a show of Loper pride. I'm looking forward to doing that. And boy, if we could have 4 football games and one of them Chagrin, I think that's tremendous. That would make our fall.
I think that is going to be a fun rivalry to rekindle there.
Yeah.
Okay, we are coming up on the end of our time. If there's any burning question that you have, please quickly put it into the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to ask a question here that came through the chat. It says, okay. Chancellor, you are in your 18th year at UNK. I'd be interested in what gets you fired up to get to work and champion UNK. 18 years later, what fills your battery?
Oh, it's students. It's an easy one. The opportunity to see these shy kids come. Many of them have never been in a town as large as Kearney, or many of them haven't been in as small a town as Kearney, and watch them come together and live and interact and watch them grow and mature. That charges my battery. I think we all want to do something in life that's important. We want to do something that's fulfilling, and I've got a great job that is both important and fulfilling to me. And I try to pick out a student every day when I park my car. I'm a couple blocks away, and I walk over. I try to find a student. I don't stalk them, but I do try to find a student and go, I wonder what they're doing today. I try to put myself in their shoes, and some of them don't have a care in the world. The other looks like they're carrying 10 tons of bricks on their shoulders. And I suppose it depends on what they did the night before and what exam they have today. But that's what gets my battery. The other is looking to the future. Kearney's come so far, and there's so many things we can do. And so things like the Regional Engagement Center and Village Flats, new Greek housing, just as an inside information deal, watch our relationship with the Med Center. This is going to change UNK, and it's going to change the city of Kearney. And we've got a number of things going. This is going to continue to blossom, and hopefully by the end of the year, we're going to be able to make some other announcements about opportunities for students in this relationship. And that's what gets me going in the morning. My health is better. I feel better. I miss going to campus since March. That's just killing me. But I'm back, and if you need to have your batteries recharged, come onto campus. Go over to the Cope Fountain, which is now a water feature with colored lights and pumps and different water jets instead of a fountain pool. But and just watch the students over there. It will reignite your faith in the world.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Chancellor Kristensen, for joining us tonight. I'm going to let Lucas and Chancellor, if you've got any parting comments that you'd like to share, and And please go ahead and if anybody has a comment, they can unmute themselves and share with you as well.
I really appreciate the chance to do this. To be honest with you, I don't want to go watch the debates. My blood pressure just doesn't need it. But I got to tell you, the campus, despite all the challenges, is doing really well. And I'm very proud of that. U.S. News and World Report, 12-state region, ranked as number 6. It's the highest rating we've ever had. Our online master's programs in graduate education over in the College of Ed nationally is sitting in the top 30. And we're talking about competing with the Auburns and the Penn States of the world in that arena. We're also, I think, number 6, probably tied with Florida State for online education for veterans to make a difference. Those are things that are really important for us. And I think we've hit our stride in terms of quality. The quality is worth a lot, and we're still a very inexpensive. We really value the relationship also with the foundation. I don't think people realize how strong the foundation is and what a difference they've made to the Kearney campus. And we're going to start to embark on a campaign one of these days that I think will again stretch us and do things we never dreamed of. And so as I look at it, as I'm starting my 19th year, and I'm really lucky if I get a chance to finish this year out, because you never know. You worry about staying too long sometimes, but what a great place to work and great people to be around. So thanks for having me. I'd love to do this some more.
Lucas, you got any closing comments?
My only thing would be, I really wish all of our alumni had a chance to spend a little time with the chancellor, and I get a chance to really talk about the future with him and the leadership team of the campus and really the university system. And it's really, really encouraging. I mean, I think you're all proud of the institution. You're here, you're listening, and you're interested. And I hope you'll tell others about what you've heard tonight. There's so much more to say. We could sit here for hours and not cover all of it, but we're not going to do that. But it's really great. And all the good things that we know about, Kearney State teachers, Kearney State College, UNK, they're all still true, but it's a different kind of place that's going tremendous places. And we all get to be a part of that. So I thank you for your interest and your time and your advocacy and your support of the institution. And I hope you'll join us for another one of these sometime down the line. Thanks, Trish.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Keep watching your email and our social media for other upcoming events. We've got some other things planned, so be watching for that, and go Lopers.
Go Lopers.
Go Lopers.
Thanks.